Welcome in, everybody, to the newest episode of All Things NBA from A to Z, presented by Ballislife. I'm Kris Persianen here alongside Zach Noble and Albert Nguyen as usual. But this time, we're lucky to welcome in a very special guest, a host, a reporter on ESPN's NBA coverage and hoop streams on Twitter. Also, NBA Crosscourt and a personal favorite of mine, Sneaker Center on ESPN
Oh,
Plus, because I don't know. Let's see if you can if I'm
oh,
cheating
okay.
here,
Let's
but
see what you're working
I
with.
um
What you're
I
working
I
with.
love sneakers and I always have. So I've always been into your coverage. Cassidy Hubbarth, thank you so much for taking the time and joining the show.
I mean, it's my pleasure to be with you, and I'm sure you're on cloud nine because I'm looking dead at your Knicks flag right now. And what a game! What a night! I mean, that was one of the best nights in playoff basketball that I can, remember in recent history. That both of those endings were fantastic, and it was good, given that um, I pretty much had three blowouts last week as well. So, I was a little jealous of TNT being like, man, how did they get all the good
The
games? But
good.
hopefully, we build from here.
Well, let's start right there. These two games last night, the Knicks going up 2-0, and of course, the Denver Nuggets, just like New York, pulling going up 2-0 out of there. You know where. The home teams are 11-0 in the NBA playoffs so far. And lots of people, smarter people than me, will say that a playoff series does not start until a road team wins a game. What are you thinking about these first games, especially in the two series that we saw last night?
Well, first of all, that finish by the Knicks, it was, I mean, you were in the building, Kris. It was absolutely electric just watching it on TV. And through that game, I was feeling for Joel Embiid because you could tell he's not 100%. Um, and you want him to be 100%. I think Knicks fans even want him to be 100% because you don't want any excuses. Um, but I I hope he can kind of last because I see this series going seven. I mean, it's been to me the best series so far in these playoffs, and it just was such a gutty win by the Knicks. Sure there was some controversy down the stretch there, but that's part of playoff basketball. Better to be lucky than good sometimes. We'll see what happens with the Sixers kind of contesting those calls, but sometimes that just happens, and that was phenomenal. As far as like the Lakers and Nuggets finish, I mean the Lakers gave up a 20-point lead, and so that's something that they got to sit with before they talk about whether or not D'Lo got fouled or not. So but that ending with Jamal Murray hitting that shot where he said he didn't even see it, and then the celebration, like that was I think we're gonna look back on that moment when we reflect back on these playoffs for sure.
I also think with this Knicks series, I agree. It's been the most fun first round series. And I think part of that is because of the fact that Philadelphia, 47 wins, New York, 50 wins, were the
Right.
2 and 7 seed, just such a packed, tight conference. And, we all know the numbers, right? If you count the play in win and don't count the two playoff losses, Philly is 32-8 with
They're not a
Embiid.
true seven seed. And plus,
And
you're talking about, they dropped to the seven when Joel went out. So it's or dropped in the standings rather. And so it's not a true 2-7 matchup. But I think we're feeling that they're evenly matched.
yeah,
The East is certainly tight
it's
there.
a coach's duel too. I mean, Thibodeau and Nurse, they have their similarities, but you're also seeing some of the differences, right? Nurse teased the Reed Embiid front court and didn't really go to it. Thibodeau would play Taj Gibson at the three still if he could. So
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's a big X factor for for the Sixers too. Nick Nurse, he's a championship, winning head coach. He knows how to make adjustments, and that's what this game comes down to. I mean, I had the Clippers and Mavs most recently on Sunday, and talking with Ty Lue, who is well known to be a masterful chess player when it comes to the playoffs. He made it clear. He's like, we want to come out and hit first. Like, there's no fuel out game for us. We know the firepower, on that Mavs team, and we know that they're coming into these playoffs with a lot of momentum, and we don't want to settle into this. And they certainly did that. I mean, they hit first, and they kept hitting.
Well, first of all, Cassidy, thank you so much for joining us. This is my first time speaking to you, meeting you, but I've always observed from afar. So thank you again. Kris, you laid it out. Home teams right now through 11 games are undefeated, 11-0. Cassidy, who do you think would be the first road team to get that win?
I kind of feel like the Mavs are going to win tonight.
My answer too.
That'd be my pick.
I think that the Mavs, they just couldn't recover, from that, really the second quarter, but they just, I think they kind of figure it out. I think they figure out what to do with Zubats, down low. And I think maybe, Gafford, PJ Washington, like they didn't have the same type of experience. And it kind of looked like it, the others on the Mavs team, like they looked a little, shooketh, if you will, by the moment.
Shooketh, I love it. There's a word.
I think they're going to gather themselves, and, give the Clippers, everything that they have, right, especially if Kawhi is out again. I think they'll be prepared for James and Russ, in terms of, the scoring load that they took on. So that would be my first guess. And taking a look at like the schedule, so the other games tonight are, I don't know. I mean, the Suns too. I wouldn't be surprised if they beat the Timberwolves. And you know what? I think all three games tonight, the road teams could win. I think the Pacers can come back and swing at the Bucks. So maybe go all three. let's see how this goes. Let's start the playoffs.
Let's get crazy.
Yeah, just looking at the betting line, I mean, the odds makers, they expect competitive games on all three, right? The Suns are only 3-point underdogs. Pacers are 1-point underdogs. And Mavericks is flipped. I guess Kawhi might be playing tonight, but the Mavericks currently are 1-point underdogs as well.
Okay, yeah. I would not be surprised if all three road teams win tonight, but also would not be surprised if the home record, goes unscathed again through Tuesday night's games.
Who's been your favorite soundbite so far? I mean, you're always the one interviewing. You're always probably looking out for that stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I liked your clip with Harden to end the game, but I mean, outside of you, Maxey last night after that turmoil they went through, I mean, instead of bitching about it to the refs and doing all these other things, LeBron bringing up the Sixers game, Maxey just says, go get a rebound. I mean, from your eyes, like, what do you like? Maxey's my favorite soundbite there is. I think the dude's is about as humble as it gets, and he's the type of face you want in the NBA right now.
Yeah.
He is from Dallas.
And he's always smiling. I just think it's a rule in life. Surround yourself with positive, happy people. Because we all have enough to worry about. And Maxey is exactly that. He is such a positive light. And, always wanting to do what is the right thing. So I agree. Maxey is wonderful, but I think hands down, my favorite soundbite from, the first weekend was Anthony Edwards on Kevin Durant. That was, I mean, put it in the loop. Like, I just hang it up in the museum because it was just so lovely. It just captured like, just this next class coming in and also appreciating, the class of, the older class kind of still here, but kind of maybe on their, on their last chapter in this league. And, Anthony Edwards respectfully calling Kevin Durant his GOAT. By the way, like, you can, yell into an empty room whether or not you think that Kevin Durant deserves to be called the greatest of all time. It's Anthony Edwards' GOAT. And so, mixing those images with him kind of barking at KD and KD smiling about it. And then, him being able to talk trash to his GOAT in a playoff game was one of the best moments of his life. I just think, it's just one of those, like, oh man, that's just awesome type of moments.
For sure. No, the personality of Anthony Edwards, Maxey, and then just Jalen Brunson's just silent killing attitude. I think they're just the perfect type of guys you want bringing in this next wave and next generation. And I think we're really lucky, and a lot of people haven't realized it yet outside of Anthony Edwards. But like, yeah, even throw Shea in there. Like, the list goes on, like, these young talents, but their personalities are just amazing right now. And you do a great job shedding light on them. I want to go back.
Anthony Edwards could have a very, very meaningful few months here. If he can really kind of stand out in these playoffs and then take that momentum into Team USA. He could really establish himself, as we all know that he is charismatic and, has star power, but he could maybe elevate himself to a real next level in these playoffs and Olympics this summer.
Would he be your pick for young guy that has the most upside in this playoffs, or that can show the most, you think?
Oh man, most young guy with most upside. I don't know.
So many to choose from.
In the playoffs, yes.
It's tough.
I think
It's hard not to like think of young guy with most upside and not think of the MVP candidate in Shea. But do I believe that the Thunder have what it takes to kind of like go the distance? I don't know if I am behind the youngest team to do it just yet.
they might need to fail on national TV, and that's a big thing. Like, failing, getting embarrassed on national television.
Yeah.
I mean, last year they failed. I mean, we lost a bunch of close ones to the Nuggets.
But it's Denver.
They just need the return of Kevin Durant. I'm just gonna throw that out there.
Hey, if they're the number 1 seed again, he might just request a trade.
I'm trying to think of a young guy. Certainly up there. Ant, Shea. I'm trying to think in the East, like, what qualifies as young these days.
Because
there's young playoff
Brown is still like 26 and Tatum is still 25. Luka is 25. So like, are we talking, which level of young are we talking about?
Yeah, I'd say like the Celtics core, Luka, those guys are experienced vets when it comes to the playoffs. I'm talking guys with like Anthony Edwards, Maxey, Brunson, even like that don't have a ton of playoff experience yet. That could, I mean, even Brandon Ingram's just getting to the playoffs, like young playoff careers.
I think Jalen though has already stepped up in the playoffs. I think we've
now
seen
he's taking a step back.
Well, we all have he can have one. He's put that team on his back this year. I mean, he dragged them. Especially through Randall's injury. But I think the obvious answer to your question would be Anthony Edwards in that mix. If I'm leaving, I don't think I would include Jalen Brunson there. Maxey, he was my vote for most improved player. With Joel not 100%, if he can lead them to a series win over the Knicks, like put up another 50-point game. I think that he could possibly kind of take that mantle, if you will.
Yeah, Tyrese's speed is so crucial for Philadelphia.
Crazy.
And New York has great defenders on great defenders, and Anunoby, Hartenstein was very impactful this season. And someone who plays like they do smelling salts before every play is Josh Hart, and he's out there losing his mind, Lionheart as they call him here in the city. But Maxey, there's no counter for that speed that you can't teach. It
No,
makes
I
me
mean,
think of a De'Aaron Fox, think of different kinds of players, but Maxey seems to be able to set the table for others in a way that even Fox hasn't shown, because he has such a strong playmaking teammate in Sabonis, so he might not have to. But when it comes to these series in the first round, I'm curious for your thoughts on the two series in which the arguably the best player in the whole thing, it has not been seen yet. And that would be Pacers Bucks, and that
yeah.
would be Mavs Clippers. So we know you think Dallas has got it tonight.
Wait.
Tonight.
The Mavs Clippers. I did this exercise with Ryan Rucco and Richard Jefferson.
WFUV Sports, Ryan Rucco, shout out Fordham.
I mean, what doesn't that guy do? That's the last week. I mean, he did WNBA, did 2 play-ins, a playoff game, and just did the Yankees yesterday. It's insane. I'm like, you need to sleep. But in terms of we play this game of every series we have, we go, okay, who are the best players on the court? And so when you're looking at that Mavs Clippers series, telling me who's your number one? You're putting Kawhi over Luka?
So when Kawhi's on the court consistently,
Luka, for
I
sure.
would have him number one. But
I don't think
Luka's
it's the same.
offensive.
I don't think it's the same Kawhi, Chris.
You're right, and that's why he hasn't been on the court consistently. So like, to me, it's a little bit of the Embiid Brunson debate too, where it's like when Embiid's on the court, he's the best player in the league. But do the Knicks have the best player in the series? Maybe. With that said, I would say this season, Luka for sure. Luka 1, Kawhi 2, George 3, Irving 4.
Okay.
So Harden is 5, I'm assuming.
Harden's 5.
Harden above PG all day. All day.
Not at basketball. Oh, Zach.
Not
you're
at
killing me.
basketball.
And other things,
He's only been the
definitely at
most
other
important
things.
Well,
Clipper
what
all
is the
year.
area that you're putting Harden over
Right.
PG if it's not basketball?
His
His wine?
facial
I've
hair
had
maintenance.
this wine before, the James Harden.
Sommeliering, facial
Is it
hair
good?
maintenance.
Yeah, it's not bad. I mean, like even my podcast partner CJ McCollum, he has his.
I was gonna say, you know a lot about NBA
Yes,
players in the wine industry.
his wine is, he's certainly an aficionado. I mean, it's every celebrity has
He's the connoisseur. When it
has
comes
something.
to Indiana, Milwaukee,
Yes.
what did you see in that first game, especially with the Bucks winning without Giannis?
I saw Dame. I saw Dame time. I saw an experienced scorer and someone who's not scared of the postseason and the limelight. And it's Dame. Like, can they figure it out together when Giannis comes back? You can count on Dame to find his offense, especially now under Doc Rivers, who made it a point to try to recapture Dame's magic, if you will, that he had in Portland, and support his play with certain sets that was really where he could kind of feel like himself again, because from the beginning in his time in Milwaukee, it's been hard for him, personally and professionally. And there's no secret that, he preferred to go to Miami, and he had been in Portland his whole career. So it was, and obviously the situation with Adrian Griffin, like it was a lot to kind of overcome. And so when Doc came on, he wanted to make it a point to kind of unleash Dame. So that what I saw was Dame in that first game. Do I think that can consistently happen going forward? I don't know. You want to think that the Bucks have enough talent to kind of figure this out. But I think with Giannis's injury kind of hanging over them like a cloud, I think it's going to be an uphill battle.
An interesting caveat about the Dame thing. So his point prop in game 1 was 35.5. He had 35 in the first half and 0 in the second half. So everybody who was on his over ended up not cashing. My question to you, Cassidy, is, in my opinion, a healthy and in-form Denver Nuggets team is by far the best team in the NBA. Do you think there's a legitimate chance for another team to knock them off their throne? And who would that be?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I think that they do have the best 5-man lineup right now, but you're talking about in the West or in
Both Boston. You can
yeah,
include Boston. Yeah.
Boston. Boston's been the best team in the NBA all season. It now is the time. It is now or never for the Boston Celtics. They feel it. And I had Joe Mazzulla as number 3 on my coach. Oh no, number 2 on my coach of the year vote, because I think, yes, what what the Thunder did, what Minnesota did, obviously incredible. Even, what they did in Orlando, like this kind of overachieving is often awarded as, like, wow, look, you guys were not even close to here. Now, but how about first full year as the head coach after last season being thrown into the mix with the biggest expectations. And then this season, you're having to figure out how to implement all of these, veteran players. And some people would be like, well, it's easy to win with all those guys. Well, we'll tell that to all the super teams who haven't won anything. It's not easy to win in this league because of how many personalities there are, how big the egos are. And I, pretty much was on the Celtics beat this year, seeing how Jason Tatum and, I was struggling because I wanted to put him higher in the MVP race because I saw, the sacrifices he made in order to, get Kristaps more involved, help Drew kind of along in that lineup. And I think the Celtics, they're a well-oiled machine. I think we all know that they need to prove it in the playoffs, and the time is now. I mean, Jason Tatum was anointed a star. He's been on the stage practically his whole career. But it's time for them to win it this season.
Just a quick follow-up before Zach jumps in. You say the time is now or never. Let's say they don't win. What does that mean? What does never mean to you for the Boston
I don't know. I'm not
franchise?
Brad Stevens, but I think, I think people are going to be like, well, going to make their minds up on the Celtics.
Yeah.
Whether that be fans, whether that be front office. If, they can't get it done after this year, it feels like, like it's going to be a foregone conclusion that they can't get it done. But whether or not that's reality, I think, the feeling is this is your best shot. You got Drew Holiday on, like somehow just magically poof, he just like landed in your laps this summer. And you have a healthy Kristaps Porzingis, knock on wood, like you're set up to succeed. And
Drew, they had to give up like some core pieces for. Kristaps, I still don't get how the reaction to that trade wasn't Celtics heist. It was they got draft picks in that trade. Like they were given draft picks to upgrade smart.
I love the mentality and the note. I think that they're obviously operating like that. It's now or never for them, and rightfully so. But I with that in mind, I don't think you can ever split up Tatum and Brown as long as they keep making second round and beyond. It's just tinkering around on the edges.
Right.
I appreciate you going into the details on your coach of the year vote. I completely agree that everything has context around it. And it's about what your expectations were for that team before the year and how they do. And yeah, the Celtics, I mean, one of the best records ever. Anytime you win 60 games plus, it doesn't matter who's on your team. That's amazing to do. And bench was in question. So yeah, Joe Mazzulla could easily win, and he's deservedly so. But who do you think has had the best coaching performance so far in the playoffs? To me, Ty Lue game 1 was just so detailed and just perfect from the game plan of starting out fast, like, because it's very off and on with the Clippers of how fast they start. And then his ATOs were incredible and his timeouts were just impeccable as the Mavs
Yeah.
kept pushing in and stopping every run they went on. But has any coach stood out to you yet?
I mean, look, I was at that game, so obviously it stands out to me. And sitting with Ty Lue ahead of time, and especially doing the game with someone who won a championship with Ty Lue, to just give me a better understanding of his ability to switch things up, not just game to game, but quarter to quarter. This is he's known for this. There's not many head coaches that I think in the league kind of their reputation sits with people, and Ty Lue certainly does. So yeah, I mean, if to answer your question so far, to me, I think it's certainly Ty Lue, but Mike Malone, doing a great job as well. I think in the East, it's kind of hard to think about that just when we're only having like one or two games, so far. So I would say just how the Clippers came out, especially with all of the talk centered around, is Kawhi going to be back or is Kawhi not, like those guys who are out there, they were ready.
Absolutely. And like you were just saying with the East too, we were talking earlier about how tightly packed that conference was. So it's hard for, one team to stand out over the other. My funny argument would be that, if the Knicks don't have a bunch of DPOY or MIP or first team all NBA guys, then Thibodeau for getting them to 50 could be in consideration. But he's such a rock, like he's just like he's always going to do what he does. And so it's kind of hard for it to stand out in certain
To say the
seasons
least.
over others. With that said, I wanted to ask you one final question here before we let you go. And I try to leave these last questions to be a little tricky, a little fun, but what do you think the biggest upset we'll see in this NBA playoffs is? You can project down the line, you can project even now in the first round, but what team that a lot of people see as being at the top gets knocked off? And, as we talked about earlier, maybe it's not Denver, right? But
I don't know. I think that would be the biggest shock. I think Denver going down, which they can easily go down in the gauntlet that is the West. That would be my answer.
who has the best shot then to make that happen? Is it Dallas to you? Because just they're so dynamic, or
Honestly, anybody, like outside of, I don't see. I don't know if I see anyone in the Pelicans, Thunder. I don't know if I see the Thunder beating them, but I can see the
Not
Clippers.
the Lakers anymore either.
I don't know about that. I
Yeah.
don't know
Not
about that.
over. It's not
Yeah,
over.
they could be up 2-0.
They were,
They could be.
they could have easily stolen. That's what you have to keep in perspective. Like they could have stolen game 2. The Thunder, I mean the Nuggets are supposed to win both those games at home. Supposed to. And
Right.
they the Lakers gave up a 20-point lead in the third quarter. So I'm not saying that series is over by any means. That was a heartbreaking loss. But you have veteran guys leading the way who have gone through everything and anything possible, mainly LeBron James in the playoffs. So I'm not saying that series is over. But I could see either the Mavs or the Clippers beating them. I can even see the Suns, maybe. Like there's just a lot of talent left. And so who knows? Like if you're asking me to answer that question of who, what could be the biggest upset, I think everyone's saying that like the Nuggets are this unbeatable monster. And I just think that there's enough talent in the West that it wouldn't be surprising.
Most parity there's been in a long time, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I mean,
and then on the same regard, like back to my whole soliloquy about the Celtics, like will the moment get too big and can they get snuffed out by the Knicks or the Sixers? Like who knows? That's certainly not out of the realm of possibility.
Absolutely. That's the beauty of these playoffs, though. That's the beauty of having a 3-win difference between the 2nd and 7th seed in the East, having 3 teams in the Eastern Conference playoffs that finished with 47 wins. Like that's what you
Yeah.
get, you know?
I don't want any more injuries though, because unfortunately
Oh,
that's going to impact,
The worst.
like if we got to see playoff Jimmy again, like
special.
what that could have done to wear down the Celtics and what that could mean for the rest of their run. Even Julius Randle. I mean, there are times in that game last night where you could see that they were missing his offense. And I just hate that Joel is not 100% yet, and he's battling mentally because it is special to watch him. It is special to watch Joel Embiid, just as it is. I hate to do the comparison, but you can't help it because they've been the last few MVPs. It is special to watch Nikola Jokic.
Yes.
It is extremely special to watch Joel Embiid as well. And when he is clicking on all cylinders, he is the most dominant player in the game.
So that's what I was saying earlier. Like when he is playing, he played 39 of 82, but when he is playing, they were 32 and 31 and
He was
8.
by far the
these games.
MVP at that point before he went out.
Incredible
The
stuff.
numbers were
And
astronomical.
he looks
They
pissed
even were
after
they even
last
were a
night.
+3 with him on the court last night, and I think the plus in the first game as well. So it's just crazy how the difference it makes when he's off the court. I mean,
I would have
what is
loved
it?
you there, Cassidy, trying to draw more out of him when he's staring at the ground, not even looking at any reporters or the camera, just saying, "We're going to win this series. We're going to get this right. We're going to make this work." I'm so excited to
You can
see.
feel the pain. You can feel that,
Yes.
he knows. I think also the fact that he won MVP last year, because that was a fixation for him. He got that out of the way, and now he knows it's all about a championship. And then reflecting back that every single playoffs, he's injured. And I saw some people likening the Jalen Brunson bounce to to what happened with Kawhi
Kawhi. Yeah.
in
Kawhi.
Toronto. I'm like, oh, that's a little difference between an elimination game and game 2. But it was like even Jalen looked at it, he was like, oh,
Okay. And that was
okay,
his first
I'll
that
take
was his
it.
first made 3 of the night.
I know,
So
I know.
came at a good time.
I loved how he walked off the court making sure that he finished on a make. Like that's a true hooper.
I was going to say real hooper. Well, Cassidy, we know you're very busy, especially at this time of year. I'm going to remind our listeners and viewers that if they are somehow not subscribed to the CJ McCollum show, to go do that because you're really great on that show. And also they'll be seeing you on TV, whether they like it or not. So that is an amazing aspect of these playoffs, is having sideline reporters like you out there. Here at Fordham, where Mr. Rucco used to call his stomping grounds, like we have sideline reporters do the men's basketball games.
Awesome.
And this year I was on the leadership council, and I'm only throwing this in at the end, so you didn't think before the interview I was trying to butter you up, but I'm on the leadership council, and they'll say, who are sideline, I'll say Tracy Wolfson, Cassidy Hubbarth, old Doris Burke tape, like these are people you can be looking up to. And so it is so amazing for me to be able to say I've interviewed you just on a personal note.
Oh my gosh, that just gave me chills. Thank you so much. It did. It's easy to get kind of jaded and caught up in the day-to-day,
Traveling here and there
struggles
and
stress.
everywhere,
And
and the flight's
so,
delayed.
yes, exactly. I mean, you don't want me to go into my sob story on how I got bumped down a class on my flight home from LA when all I wanted to do was just, to
Nap.
turn my brain off. But such is the life. But that means so much to me because it's this is the time of year where it's the playoffs. Like we all have to raise our game, so that kind of support means everything to me. And this was really fun, guys. It was I've been in study mode, so it was cool to just rap about
just chat.
the NBA playoffs, which are off and running for sure.
Well, as a frequent traveler, I'm sure you are secretly glad that the Hawks did not make the playoffs, because that airport is the worst. With that said,
it is. But me going back home to Chicago, O'Hare, come on, I don't know anyone who knows someone who knows someone. Let's get an update, okay? LaGuardia is putting everyone to shame. Remember when we were basically swimming through LaGuardia back in the day? You can figure it out, people. Let's update our airport.
Love it.
Love it.
Hey,
Well,
your face.
Cassidy,
Stay shining, stay crushing. We appreciate you, and enjoy the playoffs for sure.
thank you so much.
Guys.
Remember, if you liked this episode, we might not have Cassidy on every time, but we do have great conversations about the NBA. Give a thumbs up, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and we'll see you next time on All Things NBA.